Hi, I'm Robin Gully.
I'm John Justin.
We are your Ward 2 West St. Paul Council people here to give you your council recap. So we just had 2 meetings tonight. We had our open council work session and then we had council meeting. And we started open council work session at 6, which tells you that it was a fairly short agenda. We started with talking about our board and commission appointment process.
Just a minor kind of tweak to it. It was a question was whether people who were wanting to be reappointed, if they should send in an application and if they should be interviewed. Because right now we're doing applications and interviews for everybody that applies. And where we landed was that yes, the application is useful because it just gives us insight into where they're at and what they've done, all that. But that if the liaison, the chair of the commission, and the staff member all were happy with their reappointment, that they would not then have to be interviewed a second time. So,
there were a couple of other little tweaks. One was that we're probably not going to televise or live stream the commission interviews.
Yep.
And the reason is, and I'm a big fan of live streaming everything, but it's just a lot of pressure on the people who are coming in to do those interviews, being sort of televised as well.
Yeah.
And so we want to keep it as accessible and low pressure as possible. The meetings are live streamed, and so if people are on those commissions, they will be live streamed, and anyone is welcome to come and watch the interviews.
It'll be an open meeting. Yeah.
But we just want to lower the pressure on the people who are being interviewed.
And not have anybody decide they don't want to do it because they don't feel comfortable speaking, talking about themselves in front of a bunch of people watching at home. So, which I understand.
Yeah. And sort of along those same lines, our city staff updated the application, so it's just a little bit simpler and it's a little bit easier to use and it's a little bit less intimidating for folks to fill it out. So we would love for you to, speaking of which, it's almost time for committee appointments and applications to come up. So we would love for you to
Get those applications
in and apply for committees and commissions. We will certainly have seats available and would love to have you there if you're interested. And just a quick reminder that the only requirement to serve on a committee or commission in the city of West St. Paul is that you're 18 and you live in the
city of West St. Paul. It's not a real high bar for qualifications. Yeah. You are qualified pretty much unless you're under 18 or for some reason you're trying to come here from Woodbury and be on our commission, which doesn't work so well.
Should be weird. We might ask you some questions.
We might weed you out at that point. I think that would be and then we spoke about, we have actually not been, and I didn't actually realize this until it came up, we are a member of the Minnesota League of Cities, but we have not been a member of the National League of Cities since the early 2000s, which I was surprised by. Yeah. And so we're going to move to rejoin that. I think that there are huge benefits we can get from having perspectives not from just our neighbors here in Minnesota, but we share things that we're doing with similar cities. And when you talk similar cities, it doesn't have to be in Minnesota. It can be in Utah, it can be in Arizona, it can be wherever, and I think that the more information we can get from those sorts of organizations, the better and more efficient we can be, the more chances we have for grants and programs that we might not be immediately aware of. And so I think it seemed like it was a general consensus that just made sense to rejoin that.
I think so, and I'll say that I think all of us have expressed how much we've benefited from being in relationship with people who are on councils in other cities and just hearing about what they're doing, but also sometimes when we go to these kinds of conferences and things, you learn about grant opportunities from the federal government or from the state government, or you learn about ways that other cities are using different kinds of grant opportunities that have come up, or you learn about different ways that cities are doing different kinds of projects, and so it's hugely beneficial.
And the cost is $2,000, which obviously to normal human beings seems like a chunk of money. But amortized over the entire city, it is less than pennies per a year. And I mean, one opportunity that comes through could pay for 20 years of being a member of that organization. So I think that it's a good move, and I'm glad that we're doing it.
Yeah. And then we talked about revisiting our 2024 salaries and wage scales for our city staff, and the reason is, and we all I think probably know at least a little bit about this, that the wage scales that we set up really haven't kept up with inflation. And we, of course, like a lot of other places, anticipated a 3% wage increase to cover the cost of living adjustment, and it hasn't. So, and we have been struggling to recruit people at our lowest steps, and so the idea is just to increase the step amount so that when we're hiring people who are new, they're coming in at a slightly higher wage, and then on and on.
Basically to get us those people in at the ground floor, and to keep the employees that we have as well.
Of course.
And again, this is always, it is a increase in what we're paying people that work here. But as somebody brought up, and it's a really salient point, I can't remember who it was, so sorry, whoever you were, the cost of replacing an employee that leaves because of the compensation massively outweighs the cost of paying a little bit more to keep that employee year to year. And we don't have employees that want to leave. I mean, people are happy here, but realistically, we have to be competitive. And if you I run a business. You can't be the person paying the lowest wages and expect to get the highest quality employee. It's just not the way that it works. And businesses across the board are going through what our city is doing right now, where they're realizing our pay scale is not tenable, and everybody is kind of doing these adjustments. So it's not just, we're not on an island by ourselves. I think this is just a general shift that's happening in the economy right now. And we're doing it in steps, because that also means that if things change, we aren't committed to a 10-year plan of this happening. Once we get a couple increments up, if then it levels out at that 3%, we can just pull the cord and ride right at where we expect to. And if it doesn't, then we can continue to be reactive. And that's the good thing about this way of doing it. I appreciate it, because it isn't something where 5 years from now, a future council is going to have to suddenly balloon wages, because now they're on the back end of, we've lost all these people, we can't hire anybody, we're not competitive. Now we have to do a 15% pay hike, which will hurt a lot. And so it's a smart way to kind of keep the course set, so you don't have to have those nightmare explosive expenditure years, which you've all seen them, depending on how long you've lived here. Nobody likes it when you have a year where suddenly things just are a massive increase. And so we're trying to avoid that.
Well, and then it gets harder for us or for future councils to reset that as well, because nobody wants to take the hit of being the one who is, managing a massive salary increase. But we really value our city employees, and we do. But and I think most of you would agree, if you've interacted with our city staff, that they do a great job, and we really appreciate them, and we want to keep them around for as long as they.
And the other thing is, this actually mirrors, according to Nate, the city manager, this is really mirroring the negotiations that we're going through right now with our negotiated positions. So police officers, police sergeants, public works, and mechanics, where these are those negotiated positions. We're looking at doing a similar increase in all of those negotiations probably this year. So it's not like this is coming out of left field. The natural occurrence is showing us, well, we're already going to do it in this whole chunk of the people that work here. So it seems to make sense that if this is happening here, this is happening here. So I think it kind of shores up the fact that this is a good move and a smart move, in my opinion.
Yep. Then we got into the council meeting. Wait a second, did I miss? One of the most exciting things I think today was that we had the chance to meet our new junior council member, McKinley Sherrier, who's a junior at Two Rivers High School. This is a new program for us, so it's the first time we've ever had a junior council member. McKinley is like I said, he's a high school student, and decided to come and to apply to be part of council, is interested in political science and in public policy, and wants to learn more about the process. And so we're just thrilled to have McKinley as part of the council. It's in some ways it's a ceremonial role. It doesn't hold the same legal power as being a council member, and obviously it's not elected. He does get to vote, although his vote would never sway the council. But a lot of our votes, if you've ever watched, like most of the time, they're
pretty similar.
So, but we really do want to hear the perspective that he brings. To the things that are happening. So
having somebody who's under the age of 18. Remember when we were talking about the commissions and having to be over 18. This gives us a chance to hear from people that might not be of voting age, can't vote for or against us, for example, but have very valid perspectives I don't have because I'm not 15, 16, 17 years old, and then nobody else up there does. And so that's the other thing is even though it is ceremonial, they're going to be encouraged to participate in discussions, and tonight I think was probably a lot. But as we move forward, I'm really encouraging that sort of discussion. We're excited to hear from McKinley and know what you have to say in case you watch this, McKinley.
Absolutely.
It's valuable to get it's always valuable to get other perspectives, and that is one perspective that's often really missing in government. Is people who don't vote don't have the voice that people who can vote do. And so I think it's going to be good on a lot of levels. Quick shout out to Mayor Pro Tem Wendy Berry, who got to appoint herself tonight, which was funny.
That was pretty funny.
And hilariously awkward, and I enjoyed watching it be awkward for Wendy. Because it's fun, because it's rarely awkward for Wendy, so every so often you get a chance.
So yes, Wendy was serving as Mayor Pro Tem tonight, and then had to swear herself in as Mayor Pro Tem for 2024. But we're excited to have Mayor Pro Tem Wendy Berry again for 2024. So.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then we had community comments. So, as you all know, every council meeting, usually around 6:40. So it's pretty consistent. And I want to say this because if you ever want to come and talk to the council, we really want you to come and talk to the council. We try to make it as consistent as possible. So our council meetings are every second and fourth Monday, as you may know.
I'm just going to vanish for one second.
John's fighting a cold. With your mask and everything. But, but we also keep community comments pretty consistent. So they always start around the 10 to 15 minute mark in our meeting, which always starts at 6:30. So we do community comments in person, and then we have a chance for folks to call in. I think if you're watching this, you might already know that, but I did feel like I was. So we had a big group of people who came to talk about their concerns about the sliding hill at Marthaler Park tonight, which we can talk about a little bit. But one thing that I noticed from talking to this group of folks was that they felt like talking to the council was a last resort. And we always want to let folks know that talking to the council should be your first stop if you're having concerns about something that's going on in this city.
Nothing else, if you call one of us up, we can direct you to that's an issue that you should talk to this person from this department. Here's their phone number, here's their email. But having us as a point of contact for that also means we can kind of follow up and see what's going on and stay on top of it. So don't hesitate, please, to reach out, because we do want to get your input and it helps us do a better job.
Well, and so we had a number of folks who came out to talk about one of the biggest things that's happening in our community right now is a rebuild of the sledding hill at Marthaler Park. There are some changes that I'm personally very excited about, like the fact that we've now changed the way that the road works there, so kids aren't going to be sledding into the road, which for me felt like a big hazard. There are some other things that folks are concerned about. I don't want to get too far in the weeds about it, except to say that we're definitely taking this feedback to mind and to heart. This is right now, just so you all know, Marthaler sledding hill is an active construction zone, and it is we don't recommend sledding there until
it's not an optimal place to be sledding right now.
Until the construction is done, and that won't be until the spring. And so In the meantime, we don't recommend sledding there, which is a real bummer. I know it's one of our favorite places to go in the winter as well. And I have 4 kids. John has 2 kids. I know we all consider it like a really important place in the winter. I'm really hopeful that it's going to make it an even better place. But
that is the goal.
The goal, yeah.
And so I'm sure that what we'll have is I'm sure that staff will come back to us, probably with kind of a further report on this, kind of a report on what they heard, the emails they've received, things like that. And I expect we'd see that sooner than later. And we're going to take the time to do it correctly. And sometimes things don't move super fast. I think we have put up some hay bales because of some concerns about, like, if somebody decided to sled here, can we at least get this protected? So I think people were appreciative of that. But it's going to be a process to get to where our solutions are here, and it's not, nothing gets fixed overnight well. I think that's one thing. And so we're going to need to take some time and probably have some work sessions and some other discussions on how we're moving forward and what the lay of the land is and all of that stuff. And using some of the expertise from staff that I certainly don't have.
Yeah.
I'm not an engineer. I've said that a million times, and I've made it clear many times when I've said stupid things in council meetings, asking questions. But, just know that those are not questions that are going on deaf ears. They're not getting ignored. They're not getting buried. But we're going to gather information. We're going to have further discussions about this, certainly. And I just encourage people to kind of keep an eye on it and see where we go and help us along as needed.
Yeah. But as always, like, the intention behind any of these projects is to make these places more usable and better for our community. There are some really exciting things coming in. So a brand new playground, a new dock that goes out on the water. So there are some things that I also think other folks have mentioned being very excited about. So,
and I think I can be a stand-in for our mayor, who obviously has a very strong feeling about parks and Marthaler Park in general. And I think I would predict if he had been there tonight, what he would have said is, like, that these investments we make in our parks, we take extremely seriously. This has been something he always mentions. And so this is not going to be something where we're going to just kind of do a half job. We didn't cheap out on anything. There's never been anything where it's like, well, how do we carve down the budget on a park? That's just not the way this city runs. And so that also should be, I hope, an encouragement for people that our goal, like I said, not to just make it better, but to make it pretty exceptional. And because we're investing your money in that park, it's important that that park is as good as it possibly can be. And we really do take that seriously.
Yeah, for sure. The last 3 items were conditional use permits for things that, so the first one was Salem Lutheran Church, which is actually just a block from my house, has wanted to do an electronic sign for a long time so that they can let folks know about the things that are happening that are for the community. So we approved a conditional use permit for that. I will say I was really grateful to Salem for, first of all, getting a sign that varies brightness based on the light level.
Yep.
And that they will have it automatically set to turn off between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m.
Yep.
And they've been, like, their whole intention is to be really good community partners. So, if anybody has any, like, feedback once the sign is there, I think that they'll be really open to making sure that it's not, like, an issue for neighbors or anything.
And this is a direct result of us finally getting around to doing the nightmare job of getting our sign code modernized and set up currently. And one of the things we did is we allowed locations of over an acre in residential areas, which is going to be churches and schools, to allow them to have these electronic signs, which you've seen them everywhere. They're really not obtrusive. Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense for an organization that's having multiple events to be able to publicize that without somebody having to run out there with a little box of
change the letters,
little changeable letters and all that stuff. So I mean, I think that this is one of those times where the sign thing was a lot of work, took a lot of consideration, but we are now seeing some of the real benefits of modernizing from maybe some thoughts that just didn't fit the modern day anymore. And that's part of what we have to do as a city, is we have to actually look at things we've done one way forever. As things change, as electronic signs exist, for all I know, the sign code was written before electronic signs were a thing, potentially. and then morphed
Yeah,
over and
the
over and over
60s,
to be
I
this
think.
lengthy, complicated sort of thing.
Yeah.
And these are the sorts of things that we have to always keep our eyes on, because if it isn't helping anybody and it's making it difficult for people to do generally accepted good things, then we should be changing those codes to fit the times. And I think this is one of those times where we really did that.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to
Yeah.
have that happen.
Indeed. And then we had a conditional use permit for an off-site liquor sale, so a liquor store on 1214 Robert Street, which is close to the Dunkin' Donuts.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically a conditional use permit for the possibility of rebuilding a building that was burned on Robert Street last year. So
Yep. And I should go back one thing on the liquor store that I should mention, because some people have been confused about this. We used to have a cap on the total number of liquor licenses in West St. Paul. I think 7, maybe 8 years ago, that cap was lifted. So I had a lot of people go, well, how can there be another liquor store? Because there's already the other liquor stores. There is no cap. A lot of cities have gone away with their cap on liquor stores. But I did want to just address that, because I had a bunch of people that are like, well, who did they buy the liquor license from? Like, that, it isn't how it works anymore, which it used to. And so there's been some confusion for longer term residents about how that all works. But yep, it's just to clarify that, because I know I got a couple questions and I figured I'd give it a shot.
that's it.
That's it. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a
good Happy New Year.
Oh yeah, Happy New Year. That's right.
Yeah, we forgot to say that. We said that.
We saved it for last.
We saved it for
Very
last.
intentional.
Yeah.
Right in the notes.
Yes. Hope everyone had a really nice and safe New Year.
Yep.
And we look forward to doing some good work with you in 2024.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Bye-bye.